In today's video, I'm going to show how to use body filler to fill holes in the body of your vehicle. This is the result afterwards. I'm going to have my video editor cut to a scene of what this looked like prior to doing the body work. As you can see, there was some pretty severe rust damage. And as we go through the video, I just want to do a little disclaimer here. You might find it a little confusing sometimes. I might mention that I'm over to the passenger side of the car or something like that, and you might look and say, well, he's still at the driver's side, which is what this is. And the reason for that is because I originally was going to make one video on how to do auto body work, but it turned out to be covering way too much. Because I did rocker panel repair, I was using fiberglass, so basically I've cut them up into little smaller videos like this. So in this video we're basically going to go over the process of, this would be if you didn't have to do any major repair, if you're just putting body fill and there's no actual holes as such to repair. So what we're going to do is, the process is basically sand it down to bare metal. Then you're going to use your body fill over the bare metal to fill in the dents and everything, and then we prime it. The painting, this car, I ended up painting this whole car, so that's another video. So that would be just what you'd put the paint over the primer. I am going to cut now to a video which I will have basically fast forwarded, which is of me sanding the vehicle damage that we just looked at with a Simonized grinder. Most of this type of thing, if you don't have holes that you have to repair in your car, just sanding block and some sandpaper will do the trick. I just, in the video you're watching there now of me with the grinder, I just happen to have the tool and it's a lot quicker to do it that way. So here's a tool that's handy too when you're doing body work, this rust converter. There's an area inside the door here I didn't really get with the primer a couple of weeks ago. So I'm just going to spray a bit of this. This converts the rust to something that you can paint over. Read the instructions on it, as always, and again, no product placement involved here. This is just the converter that I'm using. There's all sorts of different brands. We're gonna let that dry. We'll have a look at it in a couple of minutes. So the first batch of body fill that I applied, I used this width to get, just to get it down to something relatively close. Now we're getting a little bit closer on it, so I'm going to go to a more narrow spreader. So that's the spreader we're going to use this time. Now the instructions for Bondo, which is the body fill I'm using, not a product placement thing, this is just the one I've always used. The instructions tell us to fill a 3-inch diameter circle a half an inch deep. So what I do is I just keep using the cardboard, and I have this rough approximation of a 3-inch diameter circle. You can see I draw it there. Obviously this is not splitting the atom, it's just kind of a rough approximation until I get something that's 3 inches and approximately ½ an inch deep, which I'm gonna say is about that. And then they tell us to use 3 inches of the hardener, which you want to really knead up good. Mix it up good, knead it like that. I've already done that. So a 3 inch strip of this obviously is going to be roughly the diameter of our circle. And then we're going to mix all this up until it's the same color. So ideally you keep folding it onto itself until it all becomes the same color. I've seen guys do this with just the spreader and they get it perfect. I generally have to bring another tool into play here, which I'm going to do in a second. This, I find otherwise I don't really get it should all be the same color when we're done. And we only got 4 or 5 minutes of work time with this, so I don't want to take too long at it. I think what I'll do is I'll stop the camera. I don't really have a chance to move the camera over. I'll mix it on this one and then we'll apply a batch. We'll apply some more after this one so I can have the camera in place. Anyway, just keep mixing that until we get the same color, which is getting close. There. Okay, I got a batch of it mixed up over on the other side here while that last batch that we applied dries. And I can't repeat enough that this is one of these things. If I had an expensive vehicle or something, I would go to somebody who was good at body work. But this is just a vehicle, like I say, I paid $1,600 a year ago. I already got my money's worth out of it. If I can get more use out of it, bonus. And if you do this, and you're not happy with how the body fill came out, bear in mind you can just sand it off and do it again too, right? Well, that's the general idea. Just keep going in layers. The thinner you put it on, probably the better your results are going to be. Depends on how much time you want to put into it. Which in my case is not that much time. I'm moving down to the smallest spreader that was in my kit right now, because we're closely getting to the good enough point as far as this job goes. I'm also going to, the next thing we're going to do after this is I'm going to spray some primer on it. I got a can of gray primer, so you want to mix, if you're not going to immediately paint, you can find generally find a primer color that's close to that of your vehicle. I was planning on painting this vehicle now, but probably do it in a couple of weeks. That will be a video too. And my plan now is to use Rust-Oleum cheapo paint. So there will be a video. 60 grit on my sanding block now. I'm going to sand this down. I picked the wrong day to do this. It's starting to rain and I need this car for tomorrow to, it's got a hitch on it and I'm hauling my trailer with it. So we're just going to sand it down, see how it looks. A little bit of primer on it. And like I said before, if I'm not pleased with the results, I'll just basically do the same thing again. We've got Bondo glazing and spot putty, and there's a couple little places like this I was going to ignore, but when I was sanding I noticed them, so we're going to open up this spot putty and use a little bit of it there. I am going to use the corner of one of the body fill spreaders we were using, because I'm only going to be using a little bit of the stuff for two reasons. Firstly, it's only for using on small areas, and secondly, this stuff is expensive. It's like this little tube was like $10 Canadian, summer of 2019. To open it, you just reverse the cap. I took it off this way, you reverse it, you can see there's something there to puncture the tube, and you screw it on there, push a little bit. Trying to do this without knocking my camera over it, and like so, and there it is. So we'll apply a little bit of that. Not sure if I was recording when I applied this over here, so I'm going to put a little bit here, and I'm going to put a little on the spreader. This stuff has about a 20 to 30 minute drying time. So, little bits of it there. Sand it the same as the body fill once it's dried. And that'll be it. Spot putty is dried. It's half an hour later, and I'm going to go back to it with the very fine grit sandpaper. I know I promised myself I wouldn't, but I did one more little bit of body fill. If you can see these patches here, and I went vertically. I've been applying it mostly horizontally, but just before I finished I noticed that there was some grooves here I could get rid of by putting little bits of body fill vertically. I only mixed maybe a third of the amount of body fill that we were using, because it was only a small little bit of body fill that I was putting in there. Anyway, as I said, I got to finish this thing up because I'm in what I call a tent garage, which is basically just a covered area. And it may, well, it's definitely going to get wet here overnight, so give this primer a chance to dry. Spray that on. And again, disclaimer, this is just what I'm doing when I go to paint the car, because that'll probably be a couple of weeks if I really am want to change anything, I can just sand this down and apply more body fill. And there is a caterpillar that I actually moved a little while ago. I'm trying to help you, buddy. All right, let's get this primer on before it rains. Give it a chance to dry a bit. So you want to do this in kind of strokes. I should have a respirator on. I know it's no excuse, but I'm in a rush. As I said, a lot of times you can find a primer that's relatively close to the color of your car. Ooh. Okay, I'm gonna go put the respirator on. So, I wouldn't look at this as a video of how to do body work. I think of it more as how to use some of the tools that are associated with body work. Hope this video helped. Thanks for watching.